Welcome to our continuing tutorial series on Corona game development. This is part of our step-by-step series building a Star Explorer or Asteroid S style game using the Corona SDK. In this tutorial we're going to examine adding scene management to our game. This will allow us to move from a menu to high scores or gameplay very easily inside the environment. We're just going to have to make a few minor changes to what has already been created. If you'd like to see the example code, you can go to docs.coronalabs.com/guide/programming/04, and that will show the text or the written version of this tutorial. Now, our scene management should be fairly straightforward and simple. We want to go from a menu to potentially go to the game or view high scores for the game. In this tutorial, we are going to create the menu and the movement, be able to move then more easily between the scene management. For right now, we're just going to look at how scene management works inside the Corona SDK and setting up our main and menu files so that that is properly handled. So we have our main.lua, and we need to copy main.lua so that we have a copy of it and we're able to change that to our game. Main needs to be very basic, and it's primarily going to be handling our introduction for scene management. So in your Explorer or Finder, you need to move to the right location, and let's make a copy of our main file so that we don't lose all of our hard work that we've already done. So just make a quick copy of your main.lua. And once you have that copy done, then we can verify that everything is there as it should be. Looks good. So we need to clean up the main.lua. To do that, we just really need to delete everything and have a clean starting slate for the main.lua. So now we need to modify our project so that it will use the Composer scene management system available through the Corona SDK. To do that, to get started with that, we'll just simply need to load the Composer. Let's hide as we did before, let's hide the display information at the top. If you want to just copy that, that was in your main. We won't need that in our original copy any longer, so we can move that over to main. So I just cut and paste. We'll also want to take care of our random seed at this point. So we'll also remove that from the copy. And then tell it to go to our menu, which we're about ready to create. And that's done with the Composer. Menu is going to, well, let's go ahead and create it. Menu is a new file. We'll go ahead and save that. So now menu is pointing, the composer.goToScene will go to the menu file, which is .lua. Composer, if you pass a file name to the composer.goToScene, it is assumed and required that the extension be a .lua for the file name so that everything will work correctly. And right now, of course, we will get an error because there's nothing in menu.lua, so we're not telling it to do anything. So let's go ahead and get started on creating our menu then. We're done with main, which is why we kept a copy of the original. So we're going to menu and create our basic menu. Composer has a basic build that has to be used in all Composer scenes. The first thing you do need to do each time is load Composer and create a new scene for your environment. The scene holds all of the display objects associated with this particular view or scene inside of your game or mobile application. And let's go ahead and set up the functions that we're going to need inside of this application. We'll need two. One that will tell the app to go to play the game. The other will be going to the high score scene. Okay, so we've got our function set up that will handle movement between the scenes from the main menu. Let's go ahead and set up the Composer events There are 4 possible events available through scene management. We need a event for creating the scene, showing the scene, hiding the scene, and then destroying them. Create, as you might have guessed, is for creating the original material that's going to be shown in the scene. This is loaded before the player or the user actually gets to the scene. So create is done before the scene is arrived at. It's to take care of anything that might take a little bit of time to load in memory. Again, this is very quick. We're talking microseconds or milliseconds for this all to occur, but sometimes it's a good idea to be able to load things that might take a few seconds using the create. Show is when the player or user actually arrives at the scene and shows the information to the player. This is when you would start your physics engine. This is when you would start the activity inside of the app or the game. Hide is from when the player leaves the scene. They may potentially come back to the scene, but it hides the scene from view and is to take care of anything that needs to happen once the player has left this particular screen view. And then destroy removes the scene from memory, so handles anything that needs to be done after the player or the user has left this particular scene or view. Primarily, we're going to start with focusing on the create, because everything can be done with create in this particular example. So let's go ahead and do a scene create. Since we have named this function scene create, this is automatically associated with the scene that we created up above. Thus, we do not need to localize the variable name. It's already associated with the local variable scene. This will handle the specific create events associated with this variable, which is a composer.scene. Secondly, we have created the variable scene group. This is assigned to the current view inside the environment. This is a standard line that is used to reference the display group. It automatically is created by Composer, which should contain all the display objects involved inside the environment. Essentially, any object that's part of the scene needs to be inserted into this group, the scene group. So let's go ahead and load a background for an environment so that it's not just simply a blank or black screen. So just as we did before, we'll create a background variable and use the display.newImage rectangle to load it into the scene group, loading it from our assets folder and telling it the size is 800 by 1400 so that it will fill the entire screen. And then let's locate it in the center. Alright, so now we have something showing in our background. So we need a title graphic image. If you go to the Corona Labs website, you'll find that there's already one created. I'm just going to copy it over to my folders that I have available. Okay, I've got my title.png file now saved to my assets folder. You can download that from the GitHub repository that can be linked to through the Corona website, as well as you can create your own. This is just a simple graphics star explorer to place over our background image to make it more visually appealing. So let's go ahead and get that loaded into the scene. Okay, so now we have a title and we have it located as well as our background. Now we just need to add some graphics telling the player how to get to play the game or view the high scores. We'll just simply do that with a little bit of new text using the Corona SDK. Okay, so we've got 2 new variables. Game text, which does a display.newText, puts it to our scene group and displays the word play. We'll locate it in the center for X, down about to the 700th, about 70% down the screen, the native system font and size of 44, and we've also got high score also in our scene group. Also in the center, 810 pixels down or 80% down the screen, and also a size of 44. So that should be the basics other than adding some buttons. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. And there we have our create scene. And now we just need to go ahead and add the rest of the template for our scene management. Now, if you've been to the Corona Labs website, there is a scene management template that we can use to simplify creating the rest of this scene. I'm going to go ahead and open that, show that to you. So here's our basic scene management. It's the template. It's downloadable through the GitHub repository for this. As you can see, I'm going to start with the composer, our scene management, put any of our functions in here, and then we have our create scene, our show scene, our hide scene, destroy, as well as event listeners. To simplify what we've already done, I'm just going to copy the show, hide, and destroy, as well as our event listeners for each one of those. Go back here to main and place those below the information. Now I'll save, and our app shows Star Explorer, has the background. This is our menu ready to go. Of course, we don't have play and high score active yet, but that will take care of that in the next part. As always, if you have any questions about what we're covering in here, please leave it in the comments below, and we'll be happy to address those in as quickly as possible. We have a lot more tutorials and lessons forthcoming. If you'd like to follow what's happening, you can follow us on Twitter at Dr. Brian Burton, or Facebook at Burton's Media Group, or follow us on our website, burtonsmediagroup.com. If you'd like notification through YouTube, hit the like or subscribe button.